this video, we will learn about the sample procedure. Basically, the sample procedure has to deal with the sample quantity determination or calculation. Let's see some details. Okay, as usual, quality management, quality planning, basic data, and this time we'll go to sampling. Here we have different objects, let's say, or master data that needs to be created depending on the functionalities we want to achieve. In the simple one, this time we're going to talk about the sample procedure. Okay, let's create our first sample procedure. Fix quantity. I believe I don't have too many. Yeah, let's keep it on quantity 2 this way. Okay, let's press enter. Fix quantity, actually 2 in this case. Okay, basically a simple procedure is requested in the master inspection characteristics if we use a copy model or if we use a reference, for example. But it's actually in the same inspection plan where this is mandatory, because if we set it up as by sample procedure or using sample procedure, this master inspection characteristic will require the simple procedure for that. Okay, so keep in mind that this is at master inspection characteristic level in the inspection plan. Okay, so it means that one inspection, master inspection characteristic might require one specific sample procedure, and another one will require a different one. Okay, so typically they will differ, especially when they are quantitative and qualitative, for example. Okay, as you can see now, you will see the different options we have, and basically for this we're doing qualitative. Okay, so basically we have 4 types of samples procedures. Okay, the typical one will be the fixed sample, but we can also use percentage, mean 1%. So if you have 100 containers or 100 pieces to be inspected, right? You will pick up 1 in 1%. If you have 5%, you will pick up 5 to be inspected. The percentage is working well when you have, let's say, a small amount of units, but if this quantities or this lot can be really huge, you will have a lot of samples to process, which is too high. So there is another way of doing this that will reduce the numbers of samples depending on the size, which is basically the sample scheme. Okay, you can define for simple scheme that for 10 units you need to pick up 1 sample, for 100 you can take 5, for 200 you can take 7, and so on. Actually, there are some norms that define these numbers, okay, depending on the industry, automotive industry, pharma industry, different ones. But we will deal with the sample scheme later on in other videos. Okay, so in this one we will just use the most simple one, which is a fixed sample. I also need to mention about the 100 inspection. This can be used when you use a non-destructive, of course, sample, right? And you might want to, let's take a look at a visual attribute for 100% of your products, right? So for example, containers, you want to check all the containers, bring in a special label, for example. So 100% inspection is a lot of work, so you need to be careful when you use it, of course. The important thing here is to understand what the sample size is for SAP. The sample size is basically the numbers of samples you want to inspect, right? And basically you will need to put the results recording for that number, unless you are using lower than the scope or greater than the scope and so on, right? But if it's a fixed scope, you say, okay, I will determine 10 samples. You actually need to put in 10 results, okay? So keep in mind that the size here is not how many liters you are taking from a container. It's not necessarily that, okay? It's the numbers of samples that you want to inspect. For example, when they are let's say nails, for example, right? Or they are special electronic components or screens, keyboards. There are numbers of them, right? You are receiving 1,000 and you want to inspect 10 units, means 10 keyboards. You want to check or inspect 10 keyboards. Therefore, you need to type in 10 results recording for those 10 samples, okay? That's the idea of sample size. When you're sampling, let's say, chemical, for example, from a drum, 200 liters drum, saying one sample means you will inspect the full container, okay? So how many centimeters or cubic centimeters or liters are you going to extract from a drawing perspective or sample drawing perspective is going to be determined in another object, which is sample drawing procedure when you use it, right? We don't necessarily need to use it, but we can use it for sample management. We will see that in later videos, a little more complex, let's say. But basically, it's important to understand that sample procedure is not the how many liters or how many kgs you are drawing, but basically the numbers of samples you are gonna inspect, okay? Again, if it's chemicals, it's the numbers of containers. You're receiving 100 drums, right? 200 liter drums, and you want to inspect one, means you're going to open one of them. You will extract whatever the sample drawing procedure will tell you, or if you are not using it, whatever the procedure you have, a reading procedure you have, saying, for example, I don't know, 250 millimeters, right? For example, right? So that is important to understand. In regard to evaluation mode, it's important to understand that we need the evaluation mode to define and evaluate the results recording. Okay, so when you say, okay, I will pick up a fixed sample of 2 units, okay, and I want 0 to be defective, okay. For example, if we assign this typical attributive inspection non-conforming unit, we will be able to define how many samples of them, okay, or units of them can be out of spec, and you're still gonna approve it, let's say, or still gonna consider as in spec lot, okay. So basically, for this case, we will define 2 samples in 0 non-conforming units, okay. So we're gonna be strict. Of course, these numbers can be defined depending on your industry, right? Again, if you are using nails, for example, or different units that you will accept some of them to be defective, you might accept, of course. Otherwise, you will never approve any lot because it's too strict, right? So depending on your requirements, you will define this in different ways, okay? But in my case, I will define this like, let's suppose this is a chemical or something, so 2 units or 2, you will inspect 2 samples, right? And none of them can be out of spec. Okay, so let's keep the inspection points as without inspection points. We will discuss about inspection point and sample management in other videos, specific videos. But for this case, for the sake of simplicity, we're gonna just define 2 units and 0 non-conforming units. Okay, let's move to that. Okay, so this is just a review. We can also add here the control chart type when we use specific valuation mode based on control, statistic control. But basically, we will see that on a later video as well. So in this case, now let's go to sample here to define, and then we're gonna define 2 and 0. Acceptance number 0 means that we don't expect to have any of those two samples out of a spec. Okay, both of them should be in spec. Let's save it. And that's it. We have just created our first sample procedure. I hope you understood correctly. The sample procedure goes in the inspection plan. We will see that later in examples when we start creating some examples and running some business cases and functionalities. You will see that in action, I would say. But keep in mind that this is at the inspection plan, but at the master inspection characteristic level, not at the header level. Okay, this is by master inspection characteristic. That's why we can define in master inspection characteristic, we can define the sample procedure is required. Okay, thank you. This video is over, but don't you worry, there are more videos to come. Do you want to become an SAP S/4HANA QM consultant? If so, you can purchase the entire full series of videos, or you can purchase one-to-one coaching sessions with me. Thanks.